There she goes. Recording is in progress, Mimi.
Hola.
How was your holiday? We just finished Christmas for anybody who is listening to this podcast.
Um, Very nice. I cooked Christmas dinner. That was a lot of work.
Many
And
kilos of animal protein.
yes, yeah. I quite enjoyed the planning, but then actually doing it on the day, I felt a little bit flustered.
Yeah, I have that experience too. I can't cook when I have people in my house. I feel rude and there's too much going
Mm,
on and I'm like paying attention to that and this
mm,
and then I get
yeah,
like I get irritable.
yeah. I don't know that flustered is a word I ever used when I was 20. Like, I feel like it's an old lady word. I'm
Mm,
being a bit judgmental about the word, but yeah, I felt all of those things. I'm just turning my phone off in case somebody rings because I'm very important. I'll
you
probably get a
are
lot of phone
in
calls
case
in the middle of this
the
podcast, and
royal
I'll be like,
His Royal Highness gives you a ring
yeah.
again.
So it
I like
just
it.
felt kind of like as I say, enjoyed the planning. That felt really good to be on top of that. But then the actual pulling of the whole thing together, I would really have appreciated being in a separate space without having to kind of ha 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 like half talk to the other people,
Is that how
and
you
then
talk to them?
yeah, kind of like and then it's all eaten in 5 minutes flat.
Mm.
And you're like, what was the
What
point?
the hell was all that for?
So I feel, tell me how you feel about this, but I feel slightly demoralized isn't the word, but I feel I am reevaluating Christmas. I don't have little children anymore, and there's all that kind
Yeah,
of excitement because they're
yeah.
opening the presents and Santa and everything. I don't have that. And I was talking to a neighbor outside earlier, and he said, that will come back when we have grandchildren. We'll be in that cycle or phase of it again. But right
Yeah,
now, he was having the same feeling. He was kind of like, I don't really know. I'm not religious. I'm not celebrating
yeah.
it as a religious festival. So what I have, after speaking to my neighbor Matt, I've sort of come away thinking, oh, I think this is actually a window of opportunity to create something, do something completely different at Christmas that if I end up being a grandma, I may not want to do. I may want to be around and,
Mm,
you know, ice buns and paint biscuits and things with them and be all Christmassy. But right now, I think there's an opportunity. I've said quite a lot of stuff.
that
Back to you.
what are we talking about? We're just talking about holidays. So the thing
Oh,
that came up for me was I made a complicated dish. And because I really wanted to enjoy it, and because I'm not gonna lie, I spent a small fortune buying the beef, which horrified
yes.
me how much it actually cost. I was like, I want to be really hungry for dinner. Well,
Mm.
I don't do well when I'm hungry. So I now have
Love
people
it.
in my house and I'm a little stressed about this dish and I'm trying to like manage entertaining people as well as cooking and paying attention to the things and when everything comes out of the oven so that we can get it on the yeah. And I think I'm just out of practice. So for me, it felt like I was literally spinning plates. And I was just like, whoa, whoa. And then I would, and it was not an enjoyable experience. And then when we actually sat, and I didn't notice, like I was really irritable and I snapped at Brian and he was like, bitch. And then we had dinner and I was satiated. And I looked around the table and I was like, I think I was just hungry. Like that was enough of a minor stressor that my nervous
Yeah,
system was not regulated the
yeah,
way I would have liked it to be. So.
yeah. We would say you were hangry,
We say this as well.
do
It's
you?
a yes,
Yeah.
it's a global term that is
Oh,
understood in all the lands.
Okay, well, you were hungry.
I was
It's so
super
it's
angry.
so interesting. It's kind of like I need to be hungry for this really expensive piece of beef,
But now I'm an
and then
asshole.
you're kind of like, oh, yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you
People
know,
are like, great. I'll never go
yeah.
there again. So
There's
yeah.
something's come up on the screen saying playing music? Question mark.
On your screen?
Yeah, because I obviously sounded very melodic when I did that weird growling sound.
Your computer. Your computer. The Chinese have taken over.
Yeah, and they're like,
They've got your laptop.
latest craze, angry lady growling, singing.
Angry Brit. Okay, well, I think this
Oh,
leads very nicely into a topic that I think is fascinating.
tell me
Uh,
about your fascinating topic.
I was listening to Martha Beck. She was on the podcast Diary of a CEO. And she was talking about this theory, which is not her theory, it's supported by lots of really great thinkers. But the idea is um, we experience anxiety when we are out of alignment with our true selves. And I was like, that's very woo woo. What the hell does it mean? So I listened to the
Mm,
podcast. It was hours, I think. It was a little over an hour. And I think what I've come to realize is like, let's play with this. I think it'd be fun for you and I to play with this concept
mm,
because anxiety is something we all experience. It's something we now use in, like when I was a kid, nobody used this term, but
no.
now everybody has it, everybody uses it, and it's very, very common that we all experience it. And I think in today's world, it's even, I would say I experience more anxiety in today's culture than I probably did 20, 30 years ago because information is so readily available. Not only that, information I feel at times is sometimes like coming at me, right?
Coming
Like
at
I'm
you.
like,
Yeah.
oh, that's enough information. I don't want any more. And yet here it comes, right? And if it bleeds, it leads. So a lot of the information that comes at me is information that I don't actually want in my
If it
world.
bleeds, it
Have
leads.
you heard that?
No.
So the reason we have a negativity bias, our psyche, right? Humans, we have a
Mm,
negativity bias, which means that if you want to sell, if you want attention, if you're a politician, if you're selling toothpaste, if you want to, sell news,
mm,
you put the story that creates the most fear.
mm.
So if it
Okay, I
bleeds,
understand
it
that. Yeah.
leads,
I've never heard that
which
expression.
now social media has, what's the word? I can't think of it right now. It's early where I am. Um, monetize. So ads uh, on social media, the accounts that get to have the ads associated are the accounts that are the most polarizing, are
Mm,
the most fear provoking, because that gets
mm.
the most attention.
Yeah, I
And the ones
understand
that
that.
get
I
the,
just
yeah,
hadn't heard that expression. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
So I feel
thanks.
like
Mm,
our culture, our capitalist culture, I guess, because attention will be put on the thing that we fear is now monetized. So we just have a lot of things floating around that cause fear. Like you
mm,
turn on any news channel, you pull up any social media, you look on Twitter or X or whatever, like it'll just be all of the terrible things that are going on in the world, and you should just live in a cave because it's all coming to an end.
mm.
So why'd I say all that? What are we talking about?
You
Anxiety.
you said that because of anxiety. Yeah. Sorry, I threw you off by saying
No.
what? But yeah, anxiety.
And
Mm,
so I was thinking about like the anxiety that I experience if we just get away from news and all of that, where I tend to experience it like a place where I feel it really strongly currently is with my adult children, which is interesting because that's not even me.
mm,
So then I was like, well, how can I be living out of alignment with my true self when it has not, like it isn't even mine? I'm anxious of the
mm,
choices that they're making. I'm anxious about their future. I'm anxious about the people they date. I'm anxious about the classes they're taking in school. I'm anxious about their financial situation, whether or not they're going to be able to afford a home, have kids,
mm,
on and on.
mm.
So I asked my girlfriend, Chat, I'm
Allison.
really sorry. Don't get mad. She can be our friend. By the way, Martha Beck is in a thruple, so maybe this is our thruple. I mean, you and I are not a couple, but maybe chat could be like our third
A
party,
third
like,
friend.
yes. So she came back and said that anytime there is conflict or disconnection, that's where anxiety pops up. So it's like, okay, cool. What if we play with the lens of anxiety pops up anytime there's conflict? That to me felt a lot more, I could grasp at that. Like that made more sense to me rather than
Hmm.
out of alignment with my true self. Because I couldn't get there when I was thinking about my kids.
Okay, so does that help you in terms of
Yeah.
thinking about your children? Okay.
Yeah. So, for
How?
example, the first one is there is conflict because, um, let's say, okay, so let me just give you an example. So, son calls me late in the, like, past my bedtime, which is real early, as we all know.
Mm, mm,
And he's like, I've fucked up my car, and I was just wondering, I don't have the number for the tow company or whatever.
mm,
And my anxiety kicks up, right?
mm,
Which is interesting to me because it's not my car. I'm not the one that's stranded. Like, I don't have to
mm,
worry about, like, why could I not get to sleep after that? So I gave him the number and he
mm,
called, whatever. Like, but I still
mm,
sat
mm.
like in bed, just like not being
So
able to.
how did you relate that back
Yep.
to
So
chat saying it was about conflict?
the conflict is I can't control his life.
Mm.
I can't control whether or not he drives recklessly and hits a curb and blows out his rim and tire.
So
And
what
then I
is that
can't,
in conflict with?
that I can't control it. The conflict is I cannot control anything outside of myself. And that creates a
And you
lot of
want to.
conflict. Oh, fuck yeah. And
Mm,
there are times when I think I might be able to or that I should. What
mm,
kind of mother doesn't lay
mm,
awake at night and worry about her son who is now stranded because he's hit a curb
mm.
and his tire's blown out?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. May I?
Mm. Come on in. The
May
water's
I?
great.
May I, my lord? Um, I can see it being out of alignment with oneself in so much as when my child, so let's take your example
Yeah,
of son not having telephone number required if something's gone wrong with car,
right.
um, I would have the number.
Yes.
I would have the number with me. So their behavior is out of alignment with my behavior
Of what you would be doing.
of what I would do. And
That was one
so,
of them too that I wrote
yeah,
down.
in
Yeah.
order to create order in my world so that I can cope, I will need all of my ducks to be in a row.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I will be stressed about my ducks. And then any ducks I can see to left or right relating to, I mean, it could relate to a neighbor, anything or anyone that I would
Yeah.
be in close contact with regularly. And obviously children, even as they grow and become adults, um, I still have this invisible umbilical cord
Yes.
attached to them. So
Yes.
I need them to be in alignment with the way I do things, because
That
I
was
do
one of
things
them.
right, Ali.
Yes.
I do it the
This
right way.
right. So the misalignment,
Mm,
the conflict is their choices are not in alignment with my values.
mm,
It's so funny, this umbilical cord idea, like I don't know if you've ever done Reiki, but sometimes I've done Reiki and they've said
mm,
like they're cutting these energetic cords, and they use their hands in a certain way. They're like wiping the cords away, kind of like a cobweb,
mm,
like you just wipe it away. Because
mm.
I think that so much of my suffering is attached to how they're doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Did I tell
I
you?
can
Oh, sorry.
relate. I was going to say I can relate to it, to the word conflict there, because the way they do it conflicts with the way I do it. And obviously, at the risk of repeating myself, we all think the way we do things is the right way to do things. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing them that way. So when
Right.
someone does it differently,
Nope. No, thank
I
you.
raise an eyebrow and I'm like,
No, gracias.
yeah. And if it's somebody that I have trained, i.e. my sons, I'm like, well, I trained you better than that. Why are you doing it that way?
Yes. Which
So
goes back
yeah,
to
so that,
control versus trust.
yes, which creates I don't know if it creates, does it create anxiety? It definitely creates discomfort in me. And I've been
Yeah.
having that experience over
Yeah.
Christmas,
Yeah.
and then sort of trying to work out, would I really do it any differently? Am I really any different? Or am I holding son A or son B up to standards that I don't actually live up to myself, but I
There's
set the
another one.
bar.
You're doing a really good job. I should have just called you.
Can I just say, chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
The next one was projection. That what I want for them differs from what they want. So
Mm,
um, an example I'm coming up with is the windows that I face in my office face my next door
mm,
neighbor's house. And my next
mm,
door neighbor, it is Wisconsin, it is December, it is very cold. And there was a
mm,
crew working on their roof last week. And I was like, wow, roofing in freezing temperatures is tough on anybody.
mm,
My opinion was that this crew was not dressed properly. They didn't seem to be from the Wisconsin area. They didn't have proper clothing or gear on. They had
mm,
anyway, so then I was having a lot of judgment like this concerns me because I feel like these people like are they indentured servants? Or this like human trafficking? What is happening that these guys
mm.
are wearing like it is fucking cold outside and
And they're in
they're
t-shirts.
not dressed
Mm,
properly. Then the last day it starts snowing. Again, they're not wearing harnesses. They're not tied off. OSHA
mm,
would have a heyday with all of this. OSHA's the safety, the one you're going to work for, the Safety Health Administration, right? They're the ones that go into places and they're like, are you wearing your steel toe, your hard
mm,
hat, your
mm,
safety goggles, all of that. It starts to snow, which is real slippery. So if you're
mm,
standing on a roof and it's snowing and you're not tied off onto something so that if you slip and fall, you don't die or break a neck. I had a lot of anxiety about these people that I do not know,
mm,
which is I was having a lot of opinions about how this crew was being ran and making all sorts of stories to the point where like I texted my husband, I'm like, who do I call? And he was like, why is this any of your business? And I'm like, because someone's going to get hurt. Right. And like, okay, someone gets hurt.
mm,
I, I don't know where to be with that. Right. If like a little kid runs out in the road, do you
mm,
pull the little kid back or do you let the little kid get hurt because they need to learn a lesson? Right. Obviously, little kids you pull back, but full grown adult males, if they're going to wear
mm.
shitty clothes and they're not going to attach themselves to something so that if they were to slip and fall, they don't hurt themselves.
Hurt themselves.
Yeah. So that
Mm,
was the projection that I wanted them to take safety precautions. They did not want that. They wanted to finish this roof in a hurry and they
mm.
can move faster, I imagine, without all that gear.
Without the stuff on. Yeah. Yeah. I'm I'm sort of trying to work out in my head, is that anxiety? I'm like trying to work out for me, if I saw something similar, would I be anxious or would I be uncomfortable? And I can't work out if there's a difference between the two. So I'm thinking anxiety for me shows up, it's like a butterfly feeling inside, like
Mm,
a slight tremor or shake inside. I might have I might have sweaty palms. My voice might tremble a little. I'm
mhm.
trying to think about the physical experience and then relating it to seeing something like that. If I saw something like that outside my window,
Yeah,
would I have an anxiety response
right.
or would I have what I would call my either uncomfortable response or my meddling response?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
And
the
for
meddling
me,
is the result.
I'm not 100% sure that they're the same. I think with my kids, I can have anxiety and then I meddle, but I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have anxiety about the thing you did.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm just musing.
Yeah.
I'm just musing. Yeah.
Well, and And again, we all define anxiety differently. It's such a commonly used word now. It really is
Mm,
vague. So
mm.
my level of anxiety is almost like my attention is drawn to a thing that I cannot control.
Yeah, that's how I would define it. Similarly, as
It's real
um,
uncomfortable.
it's something that hasn't happened. So they haven't fallen off the roof, they haven't broken their necks. It's
Yeah.
something that hasn't happened, but my imagination allows me to skip ahead into
Yes.
an imagined fictitious
Yes.
future
Right.
and create all sorts of dramas and disasters
Yes.
that I can then worry about in the present moment.
Right. Which is what I did
I'm
last
probably
night.
too selfish to worry about the neighbors on the roof.
Lucky you.
Mm.
That's going to be our next podcast, the gifts of being self-centered.
Self-centered, yeah. I don't know, but there must be other examples. I just can't think of them right now
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I laid awake last night like, oh gosh, how much is this going to cost? And he's never going to be able to save any money, and he's going to end up in a van down by the river, and
Mm,
this is never going to end. And,
mm.
this car is, just a money pit. And like, a lot of it was about money, but really, money is just, for me, it's, I can't get my language today.
Metaphor.
Thank you for security, for safety, for
Mm,
future
mm,
ability to like
mm.
be successful.
And I think all of that is reasonable, Ali,
Mm.
in relation to your offspring, because
Yes.
there is this, um, well, again, the invisible umbilical, invisible,
That chord.
technical hitch.
Yes.
Yeah, there is this continued. It's a habit, actually, a lot of it,
Hmm.
because my sons and your kids similarly, they're at an age now where they they know a lot of stuff. They are adults,
Mm.
quite fresh adults.
Yeah.
They're not ripened
Young.
and mature, but
Yes.
yeah, they are young adults, and I mean, I don't know, at 24, are you still described as a young adult? I don't know. But they don't
Yes.
need the same level of 100%. They don't need
Yes.
the same level of attention as they did.
Yeah.
And it's this gradual,
Yeah.
sort of sliding scale of them needing less and less. And then sometimes asking questions, and I'm like, really? You don't know that? So then I get surprised, and that sort of then has me hooked back into they do need more help than I thought,
Yeah.
or than everybody else is telling me. Um, I've lost my way a little bit with where I was rambling on.
It makes sense that you would be
Yes, thank you.
anxious about your kids.
Perfect. Yeah, so it makes sense that
Yeah.
because we've got 20 years plus under our belts of being concerned, interested in, and caring for these people.
Right. Right.
Um, and it's a habit that I am working on kicking, because
Yeah. Right. It's not helpful.
it's really not helpful.
Yeah.
And when I have, again, when I relate it to meddling, when I start meddling in their lives, I don't even know that I'm anxious. Maybe I am, right back here at the back of my head. I'm anxious about them, but I definitely have this feeling of, if I was to write it out on a piece of paper, it is, I know how to do this better than you. You don't know how to do this
We
properly.
can get you a t-shirt.
Move over and
Yeah.
let me do it.
Yeah.
Just let me do it.
Yeah.
And that's so horrible for
So
them.
that's the misalignment in yourself. So that's
Mm,
where I keep coming back to like, okay, I can see it when I apply it to, strange roofers next door or to
mm,
my adult children. But like
yeah.
when Martha Beck was sharing, she had a near-death experience, and she said it was during that experience that this very loud message came back to her, is that the truth will set you free. And she said, it was that from that day forward, I stopped lying about everything. And she was Mormon, so she had to like she decided that that was a lie for her. She found out, or knew that she was gay but was living a lie, and so then she
mm,
came out.
mm.
She left the Mormon culture and society,
Church.
which is a very painful experience because that was her life, and then
Yes.
continued on her way. And so she said the anxiety that she was dealing with through most of her 20s and 30s was because she was lying to herself.
Mm,
And her truth, her deepest truth, was that, she's not actually, does not believe the tenets of the Mormon faith, that she's not a heterosexual female. She was married, she had kids, right? So, like, where I was thinking we could go today are where are some places that I feel anxious that I am lying to
mm,
myself because I believe that my ego blocks me from being able to see where I lie to myself.
mm,
And so my ego is designed to like help me navigate the world. And the reason that I lie, this might be a one long run on sentence, but the reason that I lie is because there's two things. One is society and culture, and the other is I have a me that I know, and then there's a me that I want everybody else to see. And
mm,
why are they different?
mm. Yeah, I can have a stab at
Please,
answering that.
I would like you to, but be gentle
I will be.
because you're a big dummy.
I think they're different because we gently socialize our children
Yeah,
from
we
who they
indoctrinate
are,
them.
from who they are being,
Yes.
into how we want them to be at a certain point in time in a certain environment. So we will quieten down the loud child. We will
Yeah.
push forward and make them be friendly, and louder than they're being, or um, more sociable than they're being with the quiet child. So we're constantly pushing and
Yes.
molding, and we're doing it for really good reasons. They need to be able to talk to other people in social, environments. And people will maybe take umbrage and look badly on them if they don't know how to control themselves or whatever. So
I
we're
want to
constantly
interrupt.
go.
It's not that they won't look kindly on my children. They won't look kindly on me.
I think there's that too. I think
Hmm.
there's that
Yeah,
too. Yeah, I think it's not either or. I think it's both.
I
I
agree.
think we're sort of like, trying to support our child. We know if our child is kind of like snatchy and grabby and loud
Yeah.
and doesn't
Yeah.
listen, that they're going to find it hard to make friends. And we, if at 24 we're still trying to support them, we're definitely doing that when they're 4.
Right.
So we're kind of like, I'll share and da, 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 even though that child doesn't want to.
Right.
So we're doing it for them. And
Right.
yes, we are also doing it for us. We don't want to be the mother in the park who's got the loud, obnoxious child that, or the parent who's got the shy, retiring little flower that, the minute you say hello, they,
Yeah.
freak
Yeah.
out and cry. So
Yeah.
we're constantly trying to like help them fit in
Hmm.
and help ourselves fit in. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how it happens.
Yeah.
And then I think we spend much of our adult lives trying to reclaim and share who we really are. And
I don't know that most people feel that way. I think most people are
really,
trying to keep the facade up. And then there's a
mm,
group of people who start to discover that there's a different way of being. There's an,
I only know those people.
I, you are awesome. I would
I
only
only
like
know
to
the
hang
ones
out
that are on
with
the
those
journey.
folks.
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, who knows what the percentage is, but yes, there are a lot of people I speak to are on that journey of
Yes.
trying to reclaim, and then to
Yeah.
go back to Martha Beck's thing, align themselves so they have
Yeah.
more comfort, more of a sense of being at ease
Yes.
in their life,
Yeah.
rather than being, you know, out of alignment or presenting as one thing or presenting one way and truly internally something else.
And it's allowing, in some ways, it's a surrender to, because what she was saying is like, there was a lot of pain and grief that she experienced as she aligned because of the culture that she was in.
Mm,
And so that's different. It's there was somebody else I heard somebody say there's no such thing as every choice is it's just a trade-off. So if you fit into culture, then you're trading off your alignment. If you are in alignment, then you're going to like trade off that you're going to fit into the culture.
that's very either or, isn't it? That's
It is
very
very
like
much so.
you can't have your cake and eat it.
Right. And I think that it's possible, but like if you just look at the society, the culture, the
Mm,
popular overarching culture of your world, my world, very similar, right? Western
mm,
culture. It's interesting that there are things that if I were to just be true to myself, like if I was true to myself at that stupid dinner for Christmas Eve,
mm,
I don't know, what would I have done differently? I wouldn't have worried so much about whether or not people were being entertained properly because I wanted to look like a good host and I wanted people to feel
mm,
comfortable. It's like, it's not my job.
mm,
They're all adults.
mm,
Make yourselves comfortable. Figure it out. Here's Yahtzee. Here's a deck of cards. Here's some drinks.
mm,
But I was out of alignment because I was like, this is rude. I'm focused on dinner, but I want dinner to be good because I don't want them to be like, ugh, I came all the way over here for a party and the food is right. When in
mm.
the midst of all of it, what did Allison want? Her true self is somebody who just wants to enjoy her connection and company with other humans that she loves. That's where she shines.
So, sort of, if you were to do a rerun of it, because
Yeah.
I ended up cooking an enormous meal that, as I say, I did enjoy the planning of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the skills that I was using and, to kind of like organize and plan it. But actually, that's not my favorite thing to do.
And you don't even
Cook
eat
an
meat.
enormous, no, cook a big meal, you know, in front of people. I like cooking, but I
Yeah.
don't like cooking sort of on display. That's my experience of sort of like being on display, and it has to be a certain way because
Yeah.
it's the Christmas meal. Um, so I'm sort of thinking, well, what would you have done differently? What would I have done differently? Served up really quite a different meal. I mean, my mum was saying, the beef needs to be cut very thinly.
Well,
And I was
Kathy would know.
and I was like, well, I'm going to do my best. I'd thought of, you know, Ruben and Casey cutting the meat because it would be a great experience for them to, it's practice,
Yeah.
you know. And my mom was like, well, they're not going to cut it properly. You need to cut it. As it happened, it had been in the slow cooker so long, it
It
came
just fell
out as
apart.
like pulled pork, but it was
Yeah.
beef, so it was like pulled beef, and
Yeah.
it just fell apart. Everyone said it was delicious. The other massive lump of beef I've just taken out of the fridge now 2 days later. Of course, it's been sitting there.
Yeah.
Slices wafer thin. I
Oh,
mean, it's so thin, it's ridiculous. I'm like, oh, now you slice. Now when I don't need you to
cold and
slice, I can
stiff, you can
I
really
can
get to
I
it.
yeah, I can slice it so thinly I can see through it. I'm like, oh my God, now it's slicing. Terrific. But so I had those kind of pressures. I'm
Hmm.
thinking, you know, what would I have done? I don't know that I would have cooked. I wouldn't have cooked any of that food probably. And I possibly wouldn't have had any guests round. I'd have spent the day in my pajamas and eaten cheese toasties and just shut the door.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's kind of not doing what I really want to do. And I am thinking about what will I do next year instead, because that feels like a performance that I've, like I said at the beginning of the
Yeah.
conversation, I'm not quite into. Like the whole thing, I'm not into, which I can't even believe I'm saying.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, does that mean I won't have a Christmas tree next year? I don't know.
It starts to unravel. When I start thinking about what I want, I get real confused because I still can't always decipher between what Allison wants and what Allison says she thinks she wants.
Yeah.
Do I like a Christmas tree? I don't actually know.
No,
Now,
because you've done it every year since from year dot.
since the day I was born, we've always had a Christmas tree in the corner with ornaments and lights, and that's where you put the
Yeah.
presents.
Mm,
What if I didn't have one? What judgments would I have? Like, is that what I desire? So it's a fun, maybe dismantling, but fun game to play.
mm,
Do you want beef Wellington? Turns out when I was eating it, I didn't actually enjoy it. Which the
really.
irony, the flippin'
Mm,
irony of all
mm,
the work and trouble that I went through to make it and listening to Gordon
mm.
Ramsay yammer on and on in his YouTube video. He's got ADD, dude. Anyways, I don't know if Gordon's listening, buddy, take a breath because watching him, you're just like, ugh. Um, yeah, I don't know that I would do that again, but I think it's an interesting way to start to play life. What do
Yeah,
I actually want?
yeah, I've started talking to the boys. It's only the day after Boxing Day, and I'm like on Christmas night and Boxing Day, we were like, should we do something else next year?
Yeah.
Shall we? And we did think, well, maybe we'll go to Lapland.
What does that mean?
That means going to kind of like go to Finland or somewhere like that and see the Northern Lights and ledge about
Oh,
in the snow, maybe do something like that. Or do we hire a cottage in Cornwall and light a fire, walk on the beach really late at night, or, dragging a bottle of whiskey behind us and just,
oh, I like all of
howl at the
this.
moon? Do we do something really different? And I think to do something different would then allow me to experience something different, would allow me to then compare and contrast to
Yeah.
the thing I have done for nearly 60 years, which is either have a tree provided for me or be the provider of the tree with the lights. And I love the Christmas tree,
Oh, okay, good. You
but
know
but
that.
I'm something is missing for me this year, and I don't know what it is. There's
Hmm.
some kind of uncoupling, to use
Yeah.
Gwyneth Paltrow's expression, but there's some sort of I feel slightly detached
Mm,
from the thing, and I'm like, and loads of things I didn't get around to doing because I hadn't been well before Christmas.
yeah.
So I didn't send Christmas cards. And that's had me thinking, oh my God,
Yeah.
I
What will
always
people
send
think?
Christmas cards. So what will people think of me because I
Yeah.
haven't sent them? Then I'm like, I need to send explanatory text messages to people saying, I am so sorry. I was ill and I didn't get around to it. And then I'm like, but maybe I won't send them next year
Yeah.
because I don't believe in, I don't practice a religion.
Yeah.
I'm sending a Christ Mass card
Yeah.
that is about Christmas. And I always try and find ones that have baby Jesus on the front, if possible, rather than a reindeer
A puppy
or a
or
puppy or a
kitten.
snowman. Yeah,
Yes.
a kitten in a Father Christmas hat or whatever. So I'm like, I what is all of this I'm doing?
Mm,
And
yeah.
then someone told me they weren't celebrating Christmas, and I judged them. I judged the heck out of them. I was like, oh my
Pagans.
God, why are they not?
Burn
So
them at the
yeah,
stake.
I forget like that we started with being out of alignment with
Yeah.
oneself. I don't know what I'm aligned with, Ali.
That was my point.
Yes.
That's the whole point. That
Bingo.
like Martha Beck, when she decided she had a very profound experience
Mm,
while having surgery where she had a
mm,
whatever. So then she changes her whole life and I don't know if she's in her 60s. If Martha's listening, many apologies. I believe she has many years under her belt. Um, and she then like set about for all of those years figuring out who the heck am I? And
mm,
that phrase sounds so trite that I even hate to say it, but I don't know very many people in this world that know who they are and know what they want. And I guess
mm,
that almost sounds like it's a destination versus a journey, right? Like when I
mm,
get to the place, which is actually
mm,
the last part that chat our third best friend, she
mm,
said that like a lot of times it's this attachment to the outcome
Mm.
That's the
Explain.
conflict, that I'll be happy
Oh.
when, like being attached to the outcome, right? That my
Mm,
son, first of all, that he would have the AAA card so he would know the number.
mm,
So, by the way, also charge your stupid phone, dummy, because he ran out of battery. So he couldn't
mm,
actually, right? So these are all the things. And then, oh, yeah, then he also knows how to change tire. So he could have done that, blah, blah, fine.
mm,
But there's this attachment to the outcome that I'll be
mm,
happy when.
mm.
So to even say like what I want and know who I am and what I want is like, well, if I could get there, then I'll have joy.
Yeah.
That's, you're setting yourself up. Well, I believe that that is a setup for failure because,
Yes, because it's a conditional clause, isn't it? It's kind of
yeah,
like I only
thank
get
you.
this when I get that.
Right,
It's on the
right,
condition. I get joy on the condition that I have
right.
ticked all these boxes, achieved
Yes,
this thing.
yes.
And the other story that we've been sold is that, enjoy the journey. It's,
Yeah,
I mean, they're all stories, they're all
yes.
approaches, they're all concepts, but
And I
um
think we change. So who I
yeah.
be today
Mm.
is likely going to be different than who I be next week, next year, next decade.
Yeah, I think you have some essential qualities. You have
Yeah,
some
yeah.
essential aspects to your being that will remain constant and, deepen and blossom
Mm.
and bloom as time goes by. But I think, I mean, you're obviously talking about kind of like started off talking about being in relationship with, your son and
Mm.
those kind of expectations. And I'm really thinking about Christmas. I'm like, I don't think I
That
don't
wasn't what I
think
wanted.
no, I'm not as aligned with all of that
Yeah,
as I have been. And again, maybe it's because I was ill, so I didn't have quite the same run up. But I'm like, well, maybe that was just a gift. Not being well has
yeah,
allowed me to do it slightly differently, not on purpose, just because I
yeah.
couldn't get all the things done. And now I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna send Christmas cards next year. I may just be done with that.
Mm.
And what do I want it to be about in this small window when my grandchildren, if I have grandchildren, maybe I'll get back into that
Yeah,
whole thing.
yeah.
But what do I believe in? Because I
What do
I
you,
I
yeah.
don't.
What do you want your experience to be? She said something, I wrote it on my board. She said, life then becomes more about like when you're sitting in a situation and you're like, I don't know what to do, kind of like with Christmas or whatever. It's not,
Mm.
what can I do? It's, what can I make? And that to me is just such a lovely invitation.
As
What
in
can I,
create.
yeah, like what kind of experience do I desire? And how do I
Mm,
then go about generating that? If I want
mm,
Christmas to be about connection and family and, cozying up by a fireplace and telling stories and playing board games,
mm,
then do that. But if I want it to be about exploration and having new experiences and taking my kids to Morocco and, whatever,
mm,
okay, then go do that. Or if I want it to be about some beautiful home cooked meal where I spend all day in flow because I really love to cook and
mm.
it's my creative space. Yeah,
Then do that.
yeah.
Yes, I think I had more of that experience on Boxing Day. But yes, I
Mm.
think on Christmas Day I was doing the thing that I thought I needed to do, even though I had fully bought into it. I was like, I chose to do it
Yeah,
and I enjoyed the planning process. But yes, I think I was then not experiencing myself in flow or being
right,
aligned with my
right.
true desires or whatever. Mm. Hmm.
Well,
Takeaways,
yes.
Alison, what's your
Um,
takeaway?
the takeaway that I have from all of this is it is really challenging for me, Allison,
Mm,
to know what I actually want. And
mm,
I don't yet have a very good test for that because I
mm,
can, the way I am wired and the way I've lived my life is I can will my way or talk my way or convince my way into wanting what everybody else wants. I'm just really good at it. And so
mm,
this is a departure from that way of being, which is it's going to be a
mm.
something new, different, and I'm not very practiced in it.
Mm.
How about you?
Mm. I think something similar, and um, I would add that I'm sort of noticing that I have been judging myself for not being into Christmas in quite the same way I was a year ago. So I think I'm on a similar journey
Yeah.
or having a similar experience of like, what
Hmm.
do I actually really want?
Mm,
And then I'm sort of like a little note to self,
yeah.
like, and
Not that.
just watch out for you judging yourself, Mia.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I like Christmas as much as I did?
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with me.
No.
Yeah,
No.
yeah.
Gentle and
So
kind.
yeah, interesting
Mm.
conversation. Hmm.
Well done, my dear. Shall we
And
stop
you.
recording?
Let's.
All right. It has been lovely. Sayonara.
Ciao, ciao.